Good morning, everybody. Am I live? Usually it says you are live. Okay. Somebody text me from YouTube or Twitter and let me know that this is live. I think it is. Good morning. Okay. That means it is. Okay, quick word about yesterday and then we'll go into the drama du jour. And so of course we all remember the good morning. Okay, so of course we all remember the Jackson Hole Friday breakout back above 6,400, etc. Uh, Pull back Monday. Uh, where are we? Here we are, Monday. We kind of topped out on Monday near 66, whatever. I think we opened there and we kind of tried to reclaim it. And we were kind of doing a good job near 50, give or take, most of the day. And kind of in here, then we had that. Let me give it a 15 minutes so we can kind of see a little more granular. Where are we? The pin looked like it was going to be somewhere in this area yesterday. Then at the end of the day, we got a large market on close order. We got some put buyers, some put sellers that were there most of the day. It looked like they closed out their orders. And we kind of went through that 40, which was a big level, and immediately bounced afterwards. What that tells me, and this is just me, this is my quantuition theory, is when I see something like this, kind of we break below where we were supposed to, so to speak, and then quickly when the market closes, recover back to where we were supposed to be, again, quote unquote. We see we undercut 40 and we kind of pop right back up above and then kind of stayed in that zone. To me, that tells me that this last 5 or 8 points, whatever, was hedging, purely mechanical. And we quickly kind of came back to the 50, 45, 50 area, which was sort of the balance area, for lack of a better word. And we kind of hung out there most of the overnight session, of course, until the Cook news hit. And then, in case you haven't been following the news, Lisa Cook, who is a Fed governor and appointed by Biden, who comes with all the correct DEI credentials, not a political statement, just an observation. Um, I'm sure she has academic credentials as well. Um, some say, some don't. But be that as it may, uh, Trump fired her for cause, he says, and he's been kind of, what's the word I'm looking about? Threatening that, blustering, whatever about it for quite a while. Apparently, she bought two homes within a week or two and claimed both as her primary residence, and like in two separate states in different parts of the country. And that's kind of a no-no. So some pundits say that he'll get away with firing her, for lack of a better word of putting it. Some say he won't. Um, of course, she's fighting it unless her handlers tell her not to. Of course, she's firing it. And then we have a court case coming. Will she be seated for the next FOMC or not? And that's the whole nother drama narrative that we're not hearing now, but we have plenty of time for that narrative to play out. And so the narrative that I've been hearing lately, noticing it more and more, is people saying, well, the S&P earnings are up 10% year over year, and mega cap tech or NASDAQ, whatever they're using, is up 30%. So party on Garth is the narrative. Of course, this is all prep to NVDA Wednesday after the close, and the expected move priced into the chain based on my back of the envelope math is a little bit more than 1%, which is greater than the daily move priced in for, I think it's the PCE on Friday, and for the way I looked at it, even greater than the move priced in for non-farm payrolls the beginning of September. My numbers could be off by a couple pennies, but so yeah, in case you didn't know, NVIDIA is a big deal. It's about 8% of the S&P 500, and I think 15 or 17% of the QQQs, and plus the AI narrative. I don't need to tell you all that. That said, also interestingly enough, and I'll get off of NVIDIA and get back onto the SPX, which I imagine is what a punk says. Hello, he can't make it to the live today. Okay. You know, we have Lisa Cook here on this, everybody. Lisa Cook is coming to make the case for her not being fired. See that, L. Cook? Oh, and Selena made it today. And we had an interesting little chat yesterday, Selena and I. She put up a Gex thing that she gets from the free, from one of the free services, and it's okay, but it's naive Gex. It's grain of salt, and so we kind of talked about what the put Lisa Cook back on. Okay. Um, so we kind of talked about what what that implies or how it might look, versus a different one, versus looking at the real gamma. And I definitely will. I'll look at it a little more closely. So, I mean, what I'm doing, and this was kind of done for me or to me, depending how you want to look at it, was actually done for me, was ask people, okay, with what you're using, whether you're using what I provide, whether you're using TA, whether you're using Gag Spot, Bear Trap, Spot Gamma, Mentor Q, Options Depth, SPX, Gamma, Omega, whatever you're using, unusual whales, whatever you're using, all of them, none of them, some of them, write up a daily plan. Doesn't have to be my format, could be your format. Get used to having some kind of a plan. And so Selena's kind of taken up the gauntlet, and that's good. That's I think that's an important evolution in most traders' journeys. It was, I know it was for me. Anyway, getting back to where we are, enough pontificating about that. So we went right down to 64.15. And I was chatting with some people last night when this was happening, and a couple of my buddies are e-mini traders. Some of you might remember Punk from mentor Q days when we used to do it daily. He was an SPX Iron Condor guy with me, but then he joined the E Mini Rebel Alliance, and now he's an E Mini trader scalper. And so we were looking at it, and he said he uh, let me answer this. Okay, I'm sorry about that. And he was saying, well, from the TA, this looked like a failed breakdown, long, whatever. And then when I looked at the gamma landscape, shifting gears to the won't keep you in suspense anymore. Ah, shit. Whoops. I looked at the gamma and I said, well, we were down around here, and I said, based on market makers having to make a quick adjustment and the algos, and it just seemed to me like 64.15, where we stopped, would have been where, like, the emergency hedging, for lack of a better way of putting it, should have stopped. And that coincided with his failed breakdown. He took some longs, he made some money, I think. Um, and going back to where we are, and so that was, you know, scalp here. We came right up to 40, which is kind of where we closed. It was kind of where we closed, and kind of retested down to 20. Why 20? Coincidence or not, down to 20. Market maker long gamma at market maker short gamma at 20. Target uh, tested right down to 20, and then kind of have been doing this higher lows, but not higher highs, if you want to play the TA game or the price action game, whatever. And here we sit at 35. Now, as far as a chop zone, you could say 30 if you want to be real strict. I was going to say 30, then I gave it 25, and we'll talk about why. And again, you can just kind of look at the price action. You might want to say that. And we'll look at gamma. And I don't know if I mislabeled it. I wouldn't call this breakout trigger. I would say it more, you're entering the chop zone. So I probably mislabeled that. It's more like not breakdown trigger, but whatever. Let's forget the labels. Let's look at the lines. And that's 64.40. So what's going on? Let's go to the videotape. And if you stick around, I'll put the link for my Substack in if you don't already have it, and I'll do like the proper putting the links in and all that stuff. Or anybody could always DM me on Twitter or on Discord. I think my Discord name is Doc, aka Trader McGraw or something. It's the name you all know me by. Um, so 6440, really should say stall, written, is kind of the first thing we have to get through. This is where all the market maker positive gamma, where all the sticky stuff is, and the likely pin is right around here. Okay. I don't want to do too much of the marketing, but how much of the service? The basic service, which is what most people have, is $39.95 a month, which is cheap if you ask me. The prices probably will be going up, or you'd be grandfathered in, and then you're on the screen share, the chat, the roadmap, all the good stuff. I think it's a bargain. And I will be launching something soon. The basic price will go up. Of course, people who have it now will be grandfathered in, and there'll be a super deluxe premium service that we're figuring out that's going to have e-mini scalping and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I was just looking yesterday, somebody's got charging, a lot of people charging over 200 for what I'm doing. So I think it's a bargain. Okay. Thank you. Worth it. Made 5K a month this month off it. Yeah. I mean, if you're trading SPX, you know how large the numbers get with SPX, both wins and losses. You know, if this protects, the way I look at it, if it protects me, see, I need all these as testimony, like affordable, right? Exactly. One butterfly and you pay for a year. That's right. That's true. That's true. Uh, and the other side of it, while I'm tooting my own horn, is let's forget the wins. I don't know about you guys, but when I trade SPX, especially credit spreads, one loss, if I'm lucky, wipes out a week. Or if I'm real lucky, it wipes out a day or two. A lot of times it wipes out a week. And if I do a shitty job managing it, which I haven't done lately, it wipes out a month. Okay, good. So yeah, send me the good. Okay. Wipes out a month. So if it just saves me or you from one disaster, one bad trade, or you're in a long scalp and we stall and your long scalp is up $800 and suddenly it starts failing, that saves me. I think it's a bargain. I think it's cheap. So anyway, what do we see here? So we see a huge fly structure, but this is so big, 100-point fly, that it's kind of almost silly to think of it that way. But if we did, we get a center somewhere in the 20 area. So that's one possible pin. Should we have a breakdown kind of shitty day, or if we look at it, if we kind of zoom in on where things are, and we say, well, we have a top we have to get through 40, 45, and we might not. I'm going to talk about it another way so remember, market maker, just for the review, market makers long gamma, they hedge against the direction of the move, but remember, against the direction of the move cuts both ways. So the direction of the move going up, they sell. But the direction of the move is away and they buy. So large gamma clusters above and below spot become sticky. So if we're in this area becomes sticky. 64, 40, 45, this area becomes sticky. Let's just say hypothetically we're down there 63.40 and we're kind of struggling over here, then this area becomes sticky. So large gamma nodes become sticky whether above or below. Mean reverting kind of keeps coming back. Um, and so, that's the way I'm kind of looking at the day here. So looking at, we could say 30 or 25. Why? Because we got this little cluster here. So this area, and we have 35 where we seem to be struggling right now. Is kind of the little center of this structure. If we want to say 25, 45, 35, like a 10 wide fly. I'm not saying put that on. I'm saying kind of mentally, I found it more and more useful to think of the structures in terms of sets of flies. Yes, you are correct. Market maker shorts push in the direction of the move, and that one is also the same double-edged sword. So let's just randomly pick this one. Let's pretend we're not, um, nothing else really is around it. As we go down, this becomes a magnet, and we tend to undercut these market maker shorts, and then we tend to get the V recovery back up towards it, or if it's from coming from the other way from whatever direction. So it acts the opposite way, but somehow paradoxically, just like with the long or the short, we kind of end up heading back toward it. Unless it's just kind of a complete breakdown and then we kind of go to the next levels. The risk on market maker shorts is stacks. We have these stacks here. So if it breaks here, and then this magnet comes, and this magnet comes, and this magnet comes, and it's useful for me to think of this just in terms of like the delta. So let's just say this is 64 delta put and a 64 delta, and we get there, it's a 50 delta put. As we go down, the deltas start increasing, but then as we stall, if we're nearby, then the deltas start decreasing, and that reverses the action, versus getting pinned below that. Say we're at 15 and it's later in the day and it's a 55 delta, then it's a 60 delta, then it's a 70 delta as the clock runs out, and then you kind of get slammed below them. I imagine that makes sense to a lot of the Gexy people in here. I'm not sure if you're kind of new to Gamma or just kind of wrapping your head around it. That might sound a little arcane, and we spend a lot of time just talking about that. Oh, and about looking at it as a fly. I'm sure a lot of you guys are, know of or are read these people's Twitters or in their Discords, whatever. Alma talks a lot about a fly structure, and so does vol signals. And that's where my attention started to be drawn to looking at structure as a fly, which just kind of makes the if-then chop zones a little more clear. So one could say, and in a way I did say, we have 6420, 6465 framing a zone with 45 in the middle. So you could think of this as a chop zone and kind of likely where price action will stay most of the day. Got this little thing here, cluster 30, 25 and 30, kind of supporting, but you got the magnet here. And you have all this positive gamma kind of making it stall. But if you can get over, and depending what IV does, etc., we can get over, and you kind of have a possible path here, but then you have 70, you have this mess over here. So this is a likely range, not a must range. And let's just see where we are. And we're kind of still struggling at that 35 level. I don't like my wording, breakout trigger. That's misworded. Those of you that have my string, I might rewrite that and change the wording. It's really a lack of breakdown trigger. Okay, so that's that. Oh shit, hold on. Oh, let me put my buddy on the stage. Let me stop screen share so I can put my password in. You want to say something while I'm getting this adjusted?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Um, so I mean, we're still kind of in this range that we were in yesterday from I don't know where we're at, like 64, 65, even 64, 75, all the way down to like 6,400. I'm personally, I like the weakness here, unless we start holding above 64, 45 SPX for a move to the upside. Um, I'm still hesitant to really trade trend until after NVIDIA just because of this big range here. Now, with the news that came out with last night, I mean, that might spice things up, but I think there's just too much weight on NVIDIA to expect too much movement.
Yeah, and it's funny, or maybe not funny, firing a Fed governor, non-farm payroll. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's Nvidia doing? It's kind of funny, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And Apple
So,
used to be like that too. So the ranges that you're talking about are broadly kind of whatever 64. Well, it's 64. If you want to get real broad, the 6400 to 6475. This whole breakout needs to consolidate and digest and kind of, from a price action point of view, declare itself. Is that kind of what you're
that's
saying?
correct. Yeah, after Jackson Hole, basically that whole move created a range in my eyes. Um, and, you know, I would say if you're thinking about it more long term, this looks bullish. But when the way that I read this to set yells traps to me, and I personally, with that in mind, I'm just taking 10, 15 points where I can get them.
Rather than getting ready to set up for a swing or whatever.
Exactly.
Let's take the 10 point scalp and go home.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
$1,000 keeps the doctor away. So
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. I've been making my grand 1,500, 800 on a shitty day, 2,000 on a good day, and I have some long scalps, long swings in there, both on the put side and the call side, different structures, flies or debit spreads, and when they when if one of them is up a couple $100, I close it off. Or if one of them looks like it's kind of getting a little shitty, down $100 or so, I'm going to close that out and reposition. I'm not holding. I'm not. I'm not married to a position or to an analysis. It just there's too much going on.
there's way too much going on. We're just on the second date here. You know what I mean? We don't want to propose just yet.
But why? Uh, um, Contrary to end of June, where the setup into July was like after June OPEX, we had a little weakness, if I remember correctly, and even into June OPEX, the setup in July was screaming bullish so many ways, from CTLA funds and vol control funds, macro flows and chart patterns and gamma levels. It was kind of screaming bullish. We're not screaming right now. We're not screaming anything. So anyway, that's where we are. So now getting to, let's see what I got here. So yesterday I put on one of the things that I'm going to be kind of offering, or doing something I've been playing with. Well, I've been asking for names, and so far the best thing I came up with was DIGG, Doc's Iron Gamma Goat, for an iron condor, a mechanical iron condor trade I've been kind of thinking of rolling out. And here it is. And I got, and it's actually close to 50% profit already. And I have the mechanical trade in, and that's with a huge drop and headline news. So I think that's pretty good. You could get out of the, I could get out of this thing at a small profit right now at the open. But I'm not going to do that because I think it's fine. I think it's fine. And I'm going to be rolling that out. It'll probably be part of like the $99 premium, super deluxe, whatever. Although I did it yesterday, like free on TV. No, that's an iron conduit. I think you were watching TV with me, asking me about the levels were yesterday when I did it. I did it at like, what time did I do it? I did it at like, uh, that had to be 410, 405, 410 after the close. But anyway, let's talk about flies though. So I mean, obviously the call side is gone, and the put side is profitable. Put side is profitable a little bit. Problem being that the long puts lost more value than the short puts gained, and that's kind of part of the challenge here. But let me switch gears and go to flies because today could be a good fly day. Now, depending on how much you want to spend, and lately I've been liking 45 seems like a good stall area. So you could do a 10 wide like this for $2. The potential problem with that is 35, closing over 35 is still a tad suspect. So you could do 30, 40, 45 like that for $1.70. But if we come in at the top of this range, you might not make as much. Now, if you want to spend, which usually I don't want to, but I actually might. Now it's $4. It was $3.50 when I was looking at it before. I might want to see if I can get something like this cheap for $3, or I don't know. So I'm looking at a fly somewhere around here, an opening salvo. Might be willing to give it that for $2. And I can always manage it. And on the put side, I saw you could get a pretty cheap put lotto fly. And usually, it's not going to be a one directional day. And we had that 20 area, remember? So, what does this cost? For 65 cents, I like this. Something like that on a breakdown. Could even bring it up a little higher to 30. You have a higher probability of it hitting. So if we brought it up to 30 for $1, that's not bad either. I think. I might look at something like that. I don't know. Something like that. So now this is not a prediction for an end of the day pin, although these are both likely end of the day pins. This is more the highest strike, the 45 area is more likely for the end of day pin. This is more sure possible end of day pin, especially if we have weakness. But we're gonna. I'm not gonna say definitely. We're probably gonna hit the stall undercut down here near 30 at some point, and I mean that's not a crazy thing to say. In which case this fly here would do well, or I might actually want to move it down to try to get the convex move toward it. I think I actually like that one better. So kind of depending on how you like to do it. I know, where is he? I know Boomer likes to do flies. You looking at any flies here before the open? You can put it in the chat or whatever. Well, if we hear from Boomer, and that's it. I would put that on the opening, and I would probably, if it were okay. It says here's where it gets tricky. So I put that on, say at the open, and then if it looks like we're going to have the initial move probably up toward the large gamma area, and then see if that move fades or not. And if we kind of come back down towards the 30 area and this seems to hold, and that's a little profitable, I might take it off. And then I would wait to see how this area acts and might take it off for a small profit or a small loss if it seems that we're clearly sticking up here and we're testing this range. But as long as price keeps going in this area, I would leave it on. Good. So you should practice that. You should practice that and also the call fly. And a rule of thumb, especially if you want to, if I'm up 40% on a fly, so 50%, whatever, if I paid $1.20, if I paid 80 cents and I'm at $1.10, $1.20, I'll take it off. Now, an end of the day fly is kind of different. So if I thought that fly might pay at the end of the day and pay $3-4, then I might leave it. At this point, it doesn't look like that. If during the day I saw VIX kind of coming up and I saw we were spending more time near 35.30, then I say, you know what, that has a pretty good chance of realizing toward the end of the day I might leave it. Even if we kind of stay in the 30, 32, 35, if we kind of keep struggling in this range, but as long as, broadly speaking, as long as we stay in the 30, 40 area, that's got a good chance. Definitely if we stay below 27-ish, for sure. I don't even know if we get to 27-ish. 30 might be as far down as we get. And if we can't seem to break below 30 after a few tries, then I might just get out of that. Anybody else here? So that's kind of it. Let's do a last look here, what's going on. So here's that 35, and here's why 25. So we should stall. Really, we should stall here. So that's praying for the stall breakdown. A higher probability would be buying 35, selling 25. Like buying right here, buying the move. No, the one I did for today, the one I did before was a 10 wide. I couldn't get what I wanted for a 5 wide, so I did a 10 wide. And so let's just talk about for today, what would I put on now? Okay, so what would I put on now? Non-investment advice, etc., for educational purposes only. What would I put on now? Well, if I can get over 70, 75, if I could, it's kind of from a price action point of view, it's sort of unlikely that we break that range. 66 was where we started the week, etc. And see, now 5 wides get tricky, but let's just kind of start looking. So 5 wide here, that's a little too close for comfort. Maybe here, maybe 65, 70, and maybe something like that if you want a cheapy 5 wide. If you want a more aggressive 5 wide, a more aggressive 5 wide, and these sometimes do pretty good. I would want to move this down a little bit. Something like that for about a quarter the width of the spread is often a decent trade, especially at these levels. I like to not look at premium and loss as much. Of course, I got to look at it and look at levels as well. So I'd rather be above the 60, something like this, 64.10.05, or like that, a 5 wide, 85 cents. That's not too shabby either. 90 cents, something like that. Yeah, 80, 75, 80 would be great if you don't mind 15 cents. Now, if we're going wider, 70, 80, 40 cents. If we're going really wide, like I like to do, 50 cents, that's not bad. And so I'm always going to start my mental calculation at the level. How safe the level is, and I'm willing to go wider further for less or the same premium because of what I perceive as relative safety, knowing that if I want more premium, I got to go closer. So, of course, there's more risk and there's more reward. You're not going to get risk without reward and vice versa. Now, that doesn't mean, now the other thing that I might talk about, I haven't done it in a while, is my wish trade. So my wish trade might be, that shows a quarter now. Whoops. If I can get 45 cents for that, sure, I would take it. Probably won't happen, but I put in a wish trade. Sometimes these get filled on the funny pops we get. And I put in a wish trade. I mean, down here I'm already kind of at a level I like, but let's just say for fun, 90. We'll keep it narrow. 90. Wait. We'll keep it narrow. Let's go real crazy. 80, 70, 25 cents. If I could get 40 cents for that, I would take that too. And on whooshes, whatever, those get filled. Now this is, a tad aggressive. I can be aggressive. I mean, I am aggressive. I very actively manage my trades. I don't, I'm here butt in the seat all day, looking at as many things as I could see at the same time, having 6 screens and a few side screens, and looking at whatever I can look at. And I know that's not everybody's situation. Some people have day jobs, so just kind of that's another disclaimer. And that's basically it. I like to talk in case you guys didn't notice. And on my screen share, I'm kind of doing a running commentary most of the day, or a good part of the day. I have to feed the goats, so it's sometimes I got other stuff. I do have to eat. I do have to take the dog out once in a while, etc. So life does show up. Okay, last look, and then I'm going to go listen to Vol 6. So my last look, let's take a look at, in my old age, I've been liking looking at depth view. I like to see the numbers. So here's all this positive gamma, 2,000, 3,000. This is a big clump. 30, 25, where we've been having the support between the two of them, that's kind of enough, with this sandwiched in between with more below it. So these aren't huge numbers, but that might be enough. And then the huge numbers are all the way down here, 63.40. And you see the big ones are in here already for tomorrow. Somebody's got a big lottery ticket here at 6,300. That's been there all week. That's been there for a while. 6,300 puts in case NVDA screws up, and PCE, whatever. Somebody's got that there. But that's been there for a while. I think that was there when we were even before Jackson Hole. So that might be money thrown out. And, oh, yeah, and I mentioned this in my note. What we've been seeing, and we got somebody that helps track the intraday flow. We've been seeing in the morning, I haven't watched the exact time, but around 10, 10:30, sometimes a little earlier, usually a few different tranches. The volatility sellers have been coming in, institutional size. First 1,000 or two, then 7,000, often ending up with 7,000, 10,000 ICs, 5 and 10 wide. And that ends up framing the edges of the day. And a prudent thing, although I've never been accused of being prudent, would be to wait for those trades to come in and see. I haven't really, I'll try to pay attention to it today. I haven't really tried to reverse engineer what their strategy is, what they're doing. Are they looking at a gamma? Are they looking at a delta? Are they looking at the expected move? What are they looking at? And try to reverse engineer that. I'm surprised at myself in hindsight for not doing that, because that's kind of what I typically do almost automatically. Why haven't I been doing that? Do I ask myself? Because I'm typically involved in trades and setting up trades, and so my mind is elsewhere. But today, I will be reverse engineering them. Okay, that's it. Thank you, everybody, and hold on one second. Good luck, and I'm gonna put my stuff in. Where is it? I can find it. Here's my Substack, and soon there'll be a WHOP along with it. I think it's live now, just with free stuff, kind of as a beta, for lack of a better way to look at it. It was an experiment just to kind of get the might as well throw this in here while we're at it. Where's my, I have a discount link for options death. And I have a discount link for Mentor Q. And they're running a special on top of a special, I think 40%. And from what I understand, the 40% is like good for the year, whatever. It's not like a 1 month deal. So anyway, that's it. See you guys later.